National Rifle Association and gun violence. And we're fortunate to have with us to talk about the National Rifle Association and gun violence, Alana McLaughlin. Now, Alana, let me welcome you to the show this morning. And I think, as we indicated earlier, this is your 8th year with us. And I'm sure that our audience is quite familiar with you. But just in case there might be somebody who might not know Alana McLaughlin, let's give you an opportunity to talk about your background, education, and some of your experiences. And then we'll get out of this first segment. And then we'll get into the second segment and start talking about the National Rifle Association and gun violence, or the National Rifle Association and gun laws, whichever you prefer. Let's start from that position.
Well, Dr. Haney, I've been with the show for the past 8 years. I started December of 2010. I'm a sophomore at the Nashville School of the Arts, where I study music, and I'm a trumpet major. Some extracurricular activities include cheerleading, church activities. I am a part of Pearl Cone High School's marching band, where I play trumpet. And I'm very musically inclined, but I always have had a knack for trying to teach the community, and especially people my age, about issues that are prevalent to today's society, to this world, but issues that aren't really in layman's terms in the news, which is why I'm talking about the NRA today, because we hear about the NRA, the NRA, the NRA, but what really is the NRA and what do they do? A lot of news stations fail to really explain the background and the history of the NRA and why they're so important today.
Very good. And so what we'll do, we'll give you an opportunity during that second segment to talk about the National Rifle Association. But in terms of some of the activities that you've been involved in school and in the general community, let's talk about it from that perspective. We've got about 3 minutes to do that, and I want to make sure that our audience has a pretty good idea in terms of who you are, what you're coming from.
Well, I am an alumna of the Junior National Young Leaders Conference based in Washington, D.C., which have greatly helped my public speaking skills and my leadership skills. I am also an alumna of both the Summer Camp for Academically Talented Students at the Center for Gifted Studies at Western Kentucky University, and the Summer Camp for Verbally and Mathematically Precocious Youth, also at the Center for Gifted Studies. I try to get into a lot of community-based organizations, for instance, student government, the SGA, and I like to be really community-based, the YMCA, the shelters, and I like to give back, basically.
Well, Laura, what motivated you to want to talk about the National Rifle Association and gun laws today?
Well, since my generation is really in the shadow of the Columbine high school shooting, and in the last decade or so, we've had a big spike in school shootings, and this all is under the umbrella of the big debate over gun control. For instance, we just had the Parkland High School shooting, mass shooting, and even a couple years ago in 2012 was the Sandy Hook Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting, which really sparked the debate, and the NRA fell under lots of controversy under this, because around the Sandy Hook era, afterwards, people really wanted the NRA to advocate for stricter gun laws and to stop selling assault-style rifles, but they weren't really doing that, and that's what really sparked this debate. Now we're seeing more high school and college and even elementary school shootings and threats, and it all just comes back to, we need better gun control.
And so that's one of your real motivations. As a matter of fact, I think many people of your age are meeting this weekend at a national activity.
The March for Our Lives this Saturday.
Say something about that.
The March for Our Lives is another one of the marches, just like the walkout that we experienced, I'd say, a week ago. The March for Our Lives is basically, I'd say, 13 to maybe 18-year-olds that are advocating for stricter gun rights and marching for our lives, fighting for more gun control, more background searches, and to stop the sale of assault-style rifles.
And so you think that this show that we're doing today will have a very, very good impact in terms of making more people in your category, your age group, more familiar with gun violence, guns, and et cetera, and it will have you will have an opportunity to help support the great effort that's being led this Saturday. Is that what we're saying in reference to what we're doing?
Of course, I want to be able to explain why we're marching for our lives and why we walked out of school last week and why all these things are happening and their importance in today's society.
Very good. And so what we'll do, we'll make arrangements for our first commercial break, and then we'll come back and give you an opportunity to talk about the National Rifle Association, to say something about its founding and some of the individuals who are involved in, and in a real sense, its motivation. And